You're listening to KPFT HD1 Houston, Texas. We are part of the Pacifica network of stations. 90.1 here in Houston. If you're down in Galveston, pick us up at 89.5. Our friends up in the East Texas area, Huntsville and beyond, 91.9. It's 7 o'clock. It's time for Songwriter Studio. I'm your host, Tom Tranchilla, in here in the Songbrush Sound Studios with Lloyd Daniel, our engineer. Thank you, Lloyd, for all you do. And it is our guest and our pleasure to bring in Rogers and Nienhaus, the duo. How's it going, guys?
Pretty good.
Going great. Thanks for having us.
Oh, I appreciate it. I caught your act about 10 days ago in St. Louis. I was up there visiting family and friends, and my good friend Scott said, you got to come out and listen to these guys. They're fantastic. I know your taste in music, and I know you're going to love it. And I'll tell you, we were there from beginning to end. The live show was stellar. I heard no boring songs. You kept the genres broken up, the tempos broken up, and your guitar work was superb.
Thank you.
My compliments on a fantastic live show.
Cool. Yeah, we have a lot of fun.
After the show, Terry, you turned me on to 3 of your albums, and I spent a lot of time listening to them and picking them apart, and it was, as your live show, excellent music, great variety of genres from rock and roll to acoustic to folk to instrumental type of guitar work, just really interesting, really great stuff.
Cool.
I do want to add that whoever did the recording, especially on Empty Room, which is the first one I listened to, this album is, a couple decades old, yet the recording quality is just stellar. Whoever mic'd the acoustic guitars just did a super job. My compliments on that.
Oh, yeah. That's our good friend Greg Trampy. In fact, Scott's known him for a whole lot longer than I have. And we did all 3 of those albums there at his studio. So, yeah, he's a great guy to work with.
Now, is his studio there in St. Louis?
Well, it's not open anymore. He has moved on and relocated to, I think, was it the St. Genevieve area, Scott?
Or Cape Girardeau or somewhere.
Girardeau,
south of St. Louis, yeah.
Yeah, it's still sort of in the same area of the country.
Right, yeah. But yeah, that studio was located on the hill, that area. And
oh, certainly.
The great Italian area, and it was in basically an old warehouse, so it was very roomy, and it was great. I really enjoyed working there.
If you're just tuning in, our guest tonight on Songwriter Studio, we have Terry Rogers, Scott Nienhaus. Scott, I hope I'm pronouncing your last name correctly.
Yes, you are. Yeah, very good. I answered to just about anything, but no, you got it right.
Before we get into the history of both your careers, I'd like to start off with the opening track from Empty Room. What a superb guitar work. I'm assuming, is this Scott doing the acoustic work on The Disguise?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Very, very much Stephen Stills influenced.
Definitely.
And great vocals, and I know he had to have been quite an influence on your career. So let's jump into that. Off the Empty Room album, this is Rogers and Nienhaus, The Disguise.
I got to be my own man. The song took you and me too far from reality. Hear me now. Better take time to understand. You got to free me now. That we cannot hide from the change about to be. Change has got to be.
The Disguise, Rogers and Nienhaus. What a great song. I mentioned very much Still's influence, but definitely David Crosby harmonies and vocals. I can tell where both your original influences came from there. And,
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
What a loss losing David Crosby, one of my favorite all-time songwriters for sure.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I'm going to talk a little bit about both your histories. Start out with Terry Jones Rogers. Terry, you were born down here not far from us, Corpus Christi, Texas. I can see you're about my age. Tell us a little bit about your first trio formed where you cut a record with some... first of all, back up a little bit. It was a trio, and you were there with a couple of guys called Pound and Green. Is that correct?
Yeah, Bill Pound and Buddy Green. Bill Pound is about 6 years older than both Buddy and I, and had been in a couple of groups prior to that had worked some with. Well, they had a band called the Boogie Chillin', and they were all of their parents had good jobs, so they all had good instruments. Great, their keyboard player had a B3 organ, and so when the Allman Brothers first moved to town, they were broke and didn't have any instruments, any amps and stuff like that. So they buddied up to the Boogie Chillin' so that they could, hey man, can we play after you guys get through? And so anyway, it was we had a great kind of introduction going in. Once we started working with Bill, 3 days after we all got together and played some music together, we opened up for It's a Beautiful Day and James Gang and some Grinder Switch at the Coliseum there. So it was a fun start.
You know, one of my favorite James Gang albums of all time is their Live at Carnegie Hall that was recorded about that time period in their career, and just a stellar record.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I noticed eventually you worked your way in as one of the replacement musicians for the Byrds. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Bill Pound and I were playing in a trio later on and playing a lot of resorts, and we were playing a show in Hilton Head, South Carolina. And as we pulled into town, we saw on the marquee that the 20-year celebration of the Byrds was playing in town. So my girlfriend and Bill's sister went to that show, and there they met Michael Clark and Gene Clark, who were all part of that group at that time. And Michael Clark ended up moving back to Hilton Head after that tour was over, and his girlfriend was Joan, Bill's sister. So Michael and I became friends, and he started coming to see us play. And when he decided to reform the group, he called me and to see if I wanted to be part of it. So that's how that all started.
Excellent story, and we'll move on. I know by 1993 you had moved to Nashville and hooked up with Scott. We'll take the story from there right after we play this next track.
Okay.
Give us a little bit of background on That's Not What I Had in Mind. This thing's got some killer harmonies, which you two spend a lot of time on. Seeing you live and listening to your recorded music are very, very technical when it comes to your harmonies. Give the listening audience a little background on this song.
I had moved to Nashville and was staying with Sue Granda. We mentioned from the Ozark Mountain Daredevils, we had become friends out on tour before that, and he was taken off out of town. He had a notebook and he threw it on the table. He's walking out the door and said, "There's some lyrics. See if you can do anything with them." and they were what turned out to be the lyrics to the chorus. And I was actually walking around the kitchen with my guitar on, just fumbling around with some chord changes, and probably before he was even down in his truck and out of the driveway, I just walked up and played the chords and sang the words that were written there. And everything just fit perfectly. And then it was like, well, there's the beginning of the song. Now I just have to finish it, you know. So I did some of that, and then I got together with Terry, and we wrote the second verse and the bridge, and there you have it.
Let's listen to that track right now. Off of Empty Room, this is Rogers and Nienhaus. That's not what I had in mind.
What could I possibly say? I'm not sure what I'm feeling. What you told me today seems I've got some time for thinking. All I ever wanted was to get it right, and all I ever needed was to have something in sight. Now you tell me that you're leaving, there's nothing I can say. You turn around and you're walking away. That's not what I had in mind. Seems like such a waste of time. Well, it don't make no sense, no reason or rhyme. That's not what I had in mind. I could count all the reasons, things I might have done wrong. I could blame it on weakness, oh, but I'd rather be strong. What about my life? You know, I try every day to find the perfect solution, just the right way. I've tried everything, I can only pray you turn around and you're walking away. Maybe you've been scheming, setting the stage, looking back on the things you used to say. How could I be so blind? This didn't just happen. Things don't just happen. Why did this happen today? No, that's not what I had in mind. Seems like such a waste of time. Well, it don't make no sense, no reason or rhyme. That's not what I had in mind. Seems like such a waste of time. Well, it don't make no sense, no reason or rhyme. That's not what I had in mind. That's not what I had in mind. Yeah. That's not what I had in mind. That's not what I had in mind.
Terry Rogers, Scott Nienhaus, co-write. That's not what I had in mind. Just superb harmonies, guys. And you add the acoustic guitar in there, and it's just splendid.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about your background, Scott. I read in your bio that you were very heavily influenced when you heard George Harrison's 12-string guitar in the 70s on My Sweet Lord. You are a master at the 12-string guitar, having watched you live the way you play it, strumming and playing lead guitar on it. Just an excellent 12-string player. Let's talk about a little bit about your band in the 80s. You spelled it, pronounce this for me.
Acousticity.
Acousticity. One more time.
Acousticity.
Acousticity. That's a tongue twister for sure.
Oh, I know. We used to judge how much alcohol we had consumed by saying it.
Well, actually, I released an album called Acoustic Audacity, so a little twist of that. You opened for the Allman Brothers, Little Feat, Marshall Tucker Band, Firefall, The Band, Poco, Outlaw Brewer and Shipley, and the Ozark Mountain Daredevils. That's quite an opening group of names there.
We had a really great time. Yeah, once we recorded an LP, actually an actual vinyl album, in 1988 for Blueberry Hill Records, which was a local label owned by Joe Edwards, who's a well-known entrepreneur here in St. Louis. After we finished that, we ended up with a booking agent, Randy Irwin from Minnesota, and he started putting us on all these dates or tours, whichever. We did a whole lot of stuff with the Daredevils. We probably did 50 or 60 shows with them. And Nicolette Larson came onto some of those tours, which is how we met her, and that's a whole another story.
And did you actually play guitar for Nicolette Larson?
Yeah, the whole band became her band.
Yeah, that was sweet. Talk about a Neil Young influence. You recorded several of his songs that were big hits.
Oh, it was great. I mean, I think it was the last time that we played with her on the bill before she asked us to join. Yeah, in fact, that was the night she asked. I had a chance to drive her to the airport in Lake Tahoe at 4 a.m. during a snowstorm, and it was just the greatest thing. She was so much fun to talk to, and super nice, and answered any questions, And then when we got to the airport, she sat me down and said, "I'll buy you breakfast." And so then she started talking about, "You guys think you might be interested in being my band?" And of course, I said yes, And so that opened up a whole nother set of doors, It was the best thing.
And you ended up touring Japan with her.
Yeah, that was great with Bernie Ledden from the Eagles on the same bill.
Absolutely. One of the original members of the Eagles.
Right.
Gentlemen, let's talk a little bit about the title track, Empty Room. Again, superb harmonies. You brought in Brad, is it Koberman on cello on this track?
Yes.
Yeah, what a great job. And whosever idea it was to put that on the track, it really adds a lot to the song. I think it just completes the song. So give the listening audience a little heads up on this track.
Well, again, it was just something that I had kind of started but wasn't getting very far with. And Terry and I were in Italy and sat across from each other in our hotel and started playing it for him. And so we worked on it. And then when we got in the studio, we weren't even planning on putting it on the record yet. We just wanted to get it on tape. And after we did, Greg Trampy said, "Oh, you guys have to finish that and do it." So we went home where we were staying anyway that night, and Terry kind of came up with the whole idea of the I don't know what you would call it, the bridge or the B part of the chorus or whatever. But so we kind of worked that up and then went in and cut it the next day, and I've always loved that one.
Let's listen to the title track of Empty Room. Again, this is Terry Rogers, Scott Nienhaus.
But I don't know if I'll find sleep. I shade the windows, but the street lights still creep, and I see you. Oh, yes I do. It's only been a while since we stood face to face. Feel so alone in a strange and foreign place, and I see you. touch, oh yes I do. But then I wake up cold in an empty room. So when the evening falls, I see your shadow on the wall. It haunts me. And in the pouring rain, I hear your name in the thunder. Night is gone, morning comes, the sun shines where the shades once were drawn, and I see you. Yeah. On the road, you know I'll spend another day. This temporary home takes me further away, and I see you. Oh, I see you there in the face of the crowd. I can hear your voice, I hear it loud. I feel your touch, oh yes I do. But then I wake up cold in an empty room. So when the evening falls, I see your shadow on the wall. It haunts me. And in the pouring rain, I hear your name.
Title track, Empty Room. This is a wonderful, wonderful song, guys. It's almost puts the listener in a trance. You recruited Skip Batten for this record, plays the bass, formerly of the Byrds and the Flying Burrito Brothers, and the new Riders of the Purple Sage. And you can really tell the bass has such an influence on all these songs, and it was a great choice to bring him in for the recording of this record.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, we were still touring with him at that time as part of the Byrds celebration, and so that we were able to tie the recording into some dates that we were doing. Flew him in early and took advantage of all of that.
I'll tell you, it's shocking to me that this record, Empty Room, did not sell 1 million copies and wasn't played on every FM radio station across the country. It's just a stellar record.
I wish it had.
Yeah.
Let's talk about On the Water. I've got one more track picked out from this album, On the Water. Again, this brings out your incredible harmonies in this song. It's a long one, but it's worth every second to listen. One of you guys want to set this song up?
It was the first song I wrote when I moved to Nashville. And basically it was because I could see the lake down there, Percy Priest Lake, from my balcony in my apartment. When I lived in St. Louis, I used to go out. I'd take my dad's boat all the time, and spent just hours and days and nights and stuff out on the water, and I just loved it. And when I got to Nashville, I didn't have a boat, so that's where the inspiration came from. And now Terry can tell you more about what happened later on when it became a video for the Missouri Department of Conservation.
We had a good friend that is a video production person who had done a lot of things for the Missouri Department of Conservation. And when he heard us do that song, he asked us if he could pitch it to them to fund a video with using that song, and they went for it. We filmed it in various locations and had great people on it, like Rusty Young from Poco, and or Soup Granda from the Daredevils, and our Scott Bryan. He's been with numerous people. Sheryl Crow is among others, and
Ingrid Berry.
Ingrid Berry. Thank you, Scott. And so anyway, it's just that song has taken us to a lot of places, for sure.
It's one of my favorite on the record. Like I said, it's a little long, but when you hear a song this good, it has to be put on the air. From the album Empty Room, this is Terry Rogers and Scott Nienhaus.
I love the highway, miles behind the wheel. And I love to see the mountains, drive along rolling fields. Sometimes it all gets crazy, knowing where I one road just finds another, till I head back home again. But if I had the chance to choose, and I could be anywhere, I'd wanna be on the water with the wind in my hair. Let me be on the water. Let me be there by the morning light. Let me see the fog rising to a deep blue sky. Now suppose that you came with me, you might be gone a long time, 'cause you and me on the water tells me everything's fine. Sunset on the water, oh, the reflection can make you blind. Like a mirror, it'll shine, 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 light the way into the night. The stars come out one by one, till the heavens sparkle with their light. I know where I'd be, you and me, babe, if I made a wish on one tonight. Let me be on the water. Let me be there by the morning light. Let me see the fog rising spirit from the deep there reminds you you're all alone. Let me be on the water. Let me be by morning light. Let me see the fog rising to the deep blue sky. Now suppose that you came with me. We might be gone a long time. You and me on the water tells me everything is fine, so fine. Let me be on the water. Let me be on the water. Let me be on the water. Oh, let me be on the water. Yeah, yeah.
Terry Rogers, Scott Nienhaus. Gentlemen, like every song on this record, this one's better than the song before.
It's great. Thank you.
My compliments on this superb record. Like I said before, I don't know why this album didn't sell millions of copies, because it has the stamina, it's got the recording quality, it's got the lyrics, it's got the writing, the movements. It's a work of art. It really is. You should be very proud of this record.
Thank you. Well, and, there's still time.
That's right.
If my listening audience wants a copy, where do they go to order a copy of this record?
Yeah, they can go to rogersandnienhaus.com.
And spell that out.
ROGERSANDNIENHAUS.com.
And if you miss any of this, go to the archives, kpft.org. Drop that archive. We're set up as a podcast, and we do archive this show for 14 days. Scroll down to 7 p.m. Sunday, Songwriter Studio, and you can get the details for this record. Also, catch us on YouTube as well, thanks to our good buddy Lloyd. Daniel, who is behind the glass, not only is he engineering this show, he's digging this music. His head is rocking back and forth.
All right.
Good deal.
We're going to move on to your latest album, guys, Younger Than Yesterday. We had quite a few tracks earmarked to play on the air, but we are just running out of time, so we're going to move on to track number 2, One Kiss. Terry, this is one of your penned songs.
Yeah.
Why don't you let the listening audience know a little background about this track?
Yeah, well, one of the things I love to do is to write songs while I'm traveling or driving alone for long distances. And I've just enjoyed that. It's I basically create the whole thing on a long drive, and then when I arrive, I then can pick up my instrument and figure out what the chords are and finish it up that way. So this was just one of those things that came to me on a long drive and inspired by a lovely young lady.
The best kind.
Yeah.
From the latest album, Younger Than Yesterday, this is Rogers and Nienhaus.
what's happening to me. This feeling, it's been a long absentee. I thought that I'd never feel it anymore. One kiss, look at me, I'm getting off the floor. All at once I understand, you're my girl and I'm your man. It's true, I know I do, I love you. I'll never, never let you down, and I'll always want you around. But if you say you need to go, well, say okay, 'cause I know I do, I love you. I know I do, I love you. Spine tingling, heart stopping love, mind reeling, 'cause it's been blessed from above. How long have we known each other anyway? That's something that is very hard to say. Love without expectation, not just based on procreation. I know I do, I love you. I know I do, I love you. No one could ever take your place, 'cause in my mind it's just your face. And either way you turn around, will make the same kind of sound. Don't you know how I adore you, and how you're my only one? It's true, I know I do, I love you. I know I do, I love you. I really, really know it's true. I know I do, I love you. Yeah, 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 I do, I know I do. All at once I understand, you're my girl, I'm your man. Love without expectation, not just based on procreation.
Terry Jones Rogers, younger than yesterday, along with Scott Nienhaus, Michael Curtis, and is it Tim Politi? Polite. E is silent. On drums, 4-piece band you guys put together to cut this record, known as Younger Than Yesterday. Great song, great album. And you did pick it up a little bit more closer to rock and roll than the previous tracks we aired in this interview.
Yeah.
Listening audience is just tuning in. We do have Terry Jones Rogers and Scott Nienhaus, scheduled guests tonight on Songwriter Studio, playing great cuts off of 2 of their records. We're going to jump up to the next track, The Long Road. Scott, this is your penned song, and I got to ask you, is this a Steinway piano you're playing in this track?
It is, yeah. That's one that Greg Trampy had at the studio for a long time. I want to say it was built in the early 1920s.
Oh, my goodness.
And he bought it from somebody in New York, I think, if I remember the history right. But, yeah, it's a sweet, sweet piano. Really is great.
Well, let me ask you this. I know you're a keyboard player because you play it quite a bit in your live shows. Do Steinway pianos, of course, they're world-renowned as some of the best pianos built, period. Over time, like a good old Martin, any old acoustic tone improves over the years. Does that affect a piano in the same way?
I would think so. The soundboard is made of wood, of course, and I would imagine as it ages that it's going to increase the nice tone. I mean, I don't know for a fact, but I believe it. His sure sounded good.
Well, from what I read in the old Martins, and for that matter in the old Stradivarius, is as the wood sap crystallizes, it gets this resonance to it. So I'm sure that has some effect on the tone with the piano as well.
Yeah, it has to.
Let's listen to that track right now off of Younger Than Yesterday. This is The Long Road.
Don't listen, they don't know what's inside. They can only see the hard times around you. They don't see the light at the end of this long, long road. Do you remember not so long ago, listening to your heroes on some worn out radio? There instilled a dream that stood so strong that it found a place deep in your soul. And do you remember the first time on the big stage, the bright lights, the big crowd? Oh, yeah. Yes, I know how it feels, 'cause I've been there before. That's the reason that I'm still here for more. Don't listen, they don't know what's inside. They can only see the hard times around you. They don't see the light at the end of this long, long road. Don't understand how things can die by each other's hand. Used to think there was something that should never be said. You just don't give up on something when you can see up ahead. No, but just go on, toss it away. Say you've done some thinking, I may believe you someday. So do what you choose, in the end that's what you have to do. I just hate to see a good friend lose, yeah. Oh, don't listen, they don't know what's inside. Now they can only see the hard times around you. They don't see the light at the end of this long, long road. At the end of this long, long road. At the end of this long, long road.
Terry Rogers, Scott Nienhaus. Beautiful song, The Long Road, and I really like the pedal steel work by Lanny Engler on there. And I've got to ask you, Scott, the lead solo in the middle of the song, I was looking at the liner notes, Gretsch White Falcon.
Yeah.
Did you pull out that White Falcon? It's got a very unusual tone, very soft, very mellow tone.
Yeah, it's a really, really cool tone. I had just gotten that guitar right in the middle of those sessions, so that was the only song that I played it on the record. If I'd have had it before, I'd have played it on a lot of them.
Yeah, it pretty much stands out like a sore thumb. It kind of grabs you, you know. Listen to the tone of that solo.
Yeah, they're sweet.
We're listening to tracks off the Younger Than Yesterday album. Of course, this is Rogers and Nienhaus. We've got one more song on this. We've already got queued up, Pirates. Again, this is one of those long songs that you guys do so well and do so. You keep the movements moving. They're never boring, your longer tracks, and I think they would be amiss if they were any shorter. Before we get into that, I do want to let the listening audience know to stick around. Pete Little with Irish Airs is up next. Please keep tuning in. And if you like what you hear on KPFT, we've been public radio here in Houston, Texas for 53 years. This show has been on the air for 17 years, and we'd like to do it for another 53 years. Don't hesitate to pick up that phone. Send us some money to that tip jar at 713-526-5738. That's 713-JAM KPFT. Keep Songwriter Studio on the air just a little bit longer. Thank you guys so much for being our guest here on Songwriter Studio. Let's talk a little bit about Pirates.
Yeah, that's the song. I actually wrote that quite a few years ago. I've always had this thing for pirates. My corporation is called One-Eyed Parrot. You know, I just had this fascination since I was a child. And so it's basically the true story of my life, you know. And it's a song that when I first hooked up with Michael Clark and started being a part of his reformed group, The Byrds, it was a song that was featured in all of our shows. And so finally got a chance to record it on this record here. And I like how it turned out.
May I ask, do you two tour anymore, or do you pretty much keep it regional?
Well, we do tour if something comes up that's worth doing, you know, basically. But I've said this 1,000 times since I've been living up here now, area in the St. Louis area for, I don't know what, now 15, 16 years or so, something like that. And the people support the live music up here like no other place I've been, including Nashville and Macon, Georgia, and Atlanta, Georgia, the other places I've lived. And it's just so it's so easy to stay busy, and people appreciate us up here and really support us well. And there's several theaters that we play, and so you know it's. But if something comes up that's worth doing, you know, yeah, we'll tour.
Sure.
Well, I thank you guys so much for spending an hour with us on Songwriter Studio.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Texas is not that far away.
Yes, absolutely. And we do absolutely go to the Kerrville Music Festival every year to get a lot of our acts, as well as Southwest Regional Folk Alliance. If you have any new recordings in the can and want to get involved with either one of those two venues, I highly recommend both of them for promoting your new records.
Sounds great.
And again, thank you so much. If they want to order a copy of this album or any of your other records, where do they go?
You can go to rogersandnienhaus.com. They can also find us on CD Baby, and also, of course, we're on Facebook as well.
Well, thanks again for joining us on Songwriter Studio. And if you like what you hear and you want to turn a friend onto it, go to that KPFT Archives drop-down menu, scroll down to 7 p.m. Sundays, Songwriter Studio, or go to our YouTube channel, Songwriter Studio. Thanks a lot, Lloyd, for all you do here, helping us out on Songwriter Studio.
Thanks, Lloyd.
Yeah, thanks.
Until next week, Tom Tranchilla, Songwriter Studio, saying have a great evening.
Every time I look out across the water, I get this feeling that comes over me, rushing through my brain like a strong wind blowing across the ocean. God, and it takes me back, yeah, way back. Like some fleeting glimpse of a past lifetime. I think you know what I mean. When I was a little boy, I used to dream I was a pirate, and I had a pirate ship inside my room. It's where we sailed out for adventure. Yes, and I made it through this time, somehow with my life intact. But the first scar that I came to wear was given to me by a pirate. Yes, we are a band of pirates, sailing out on the sea. We have just grabbed a band of angels, at least they look like that to me. Yes, we are a band of pirates, living out this fantasy. May not be out on the water, but that's where we ought to be. First time that I went out on a sailboat, it was just like I'd been there for all of my life. Oh, and in that moment I knew just exactly what I would do. That's keep sailing around on this wild ocean blue. Man, I still feel like I'm a pirate. I think I'll set sail for Jamaica. I feel the need for reggae music. Well, I'll take every chance I get to sail